Good afternoon, everyone. ICA Meenakshi Jain, on behalf of Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, welcome each participant in today's webcast from clash to collaboration, skillfully navigating workplace conflict. I welcome to today's resource person, CA Nilanjan Paul, and others present over here. CA Nilanjan Paul is seasoned chartered accountant with 17 years of post-qualification experience in wide range of accounting and auditing matters. He has significant experience in assessing financial reporting implication arising from complex and judgmental matter such as going concern and non-compliance with laws and regulation, and experience in handling capital market transaction. He is speaker in various established platforms, including the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, set up by MCA, and involved in providing point of view on emerging issues such as reporting under Companies Act and SEBI listing regulation. He has published point of view on emerging topics in leading publications having national presence and speaker at various forums. Before he start or Nilanjanji deliberates his point of view, I would like to say a line: from friction to flow, from conflict to creation, let today be a journey toward collaboration. So over to you, Nilanjanji. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Meenakshi, and I think it's a very good way to start today's session. I hope it resonates with all the participants and we have a much more engaging kind of a discussion. Right. Thank you so much, Meenakshi.
Yeah.
Uh, with that, I'll try to share my screen. Let me know, Meenakshi, if the screen is visible.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Yeah. So I think, as Meenakshi also mentioned, the topic for today is conflict and how do we navigate conflicts in our workspace. I think in whichever workspace we work, right, difference of point of view is bound to occur. Though we might find it to be a very difficult scenario if we are placed in that, but one thing is very sure is that these are not uh, uh, avoidable. In any workplace or any relationship, when there are two human beings involved, right, we would generally expect to have a different point of view. And it is not that people will always have um, a wrongful kind of an intent, but it is just we as humans are structured or wired in a different way that triggers this kind of a different point of views. Now, will that escalate to a conflict, or will that escalate to an opportunity? Is what we are going to talk about today, right? And since it's a professional forum, we will limit this discussion to navigating conflicts and managing them in a workspace kind of a environment. Yeah. So let's begin with a quote, and I really like this quote, and I felt that it is important that I share this with everyone. It is by William James. He's a very noted professional in the field of human psychology. And what he says is that whenever you are in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging your relationship and deepening it. And the factor is attitude, right? So what is interesting in this that it somehow gives an impression that conflicts will be there, right? And I think that's what we also spoke in our opening kind of a talk. But does it escalate or damage a particular relationship in the work environment? Or it deepens it, right? The only thing that changes it, the outcome, is the attitude. Now, the attitude could be in capacity of a supervisor or a manager who is trying to resolve this particular conflict, or it could also be, in my experience, depend on the two person who have different point of view. But what one thing which I find it very important and very relevant is that attitude is quite important. What is also important is that this also gives an opportunity to deepen relationships, right? So, so one question that you might have, that can conflicts have a positive side? So I'm sure there will be similar questions like that. But what I can tell you that in my experience, conflicts do have a positive side, and we will briefly touch about that in the next slides as well. So objective, I think, as I said, this is more of a workplace kind of environment. This will focus on supervisors that can work on finding out ways they can work with employees or their juniors to resolve conflict in workplace. Primarily, we will deal with what are the causes of conflict, what is also a conflict, how is it different from a negative or a positive kind of a conflict, why is important to resolve conflict, what are some of the methods which are commonly known that can be used, and then we'll also talk about the do's and don'ts, right? So overall, it would be a 2 hour kind of a session where we will deal with all these topics. So to begin with, what is a conflict? Okay, generally, conflict means is that when two people disagree with each other. Okay, it's a very generic kind of a definition or a meaning, that conflict is when two people oppose each other in terms of their values, in terms of motivation, in terms of perceptions, in terms of ideas or desires, right? Uh, Now, this is also a scenario where one of the opposing party, might perceive a threat with the other party. Now, that threat may be real or may not be real. So let's assume that if you're having a discussion with your, you know, or appraisal discussion with one of your juniors, right? If you are not communicating your views or you're communicating your thoughts in a particular way, right? The other person might perceive it in a completely different way and a completely different light. So that might create a possible disagreement between two parties. Not that two parties wanted to disagree, but again, not a very good communication is triggering a possible disagreement in this particular example, right? What I would also like to highlight is that conflict by nature, they have some negative kind of undertones. And if they're not resolved right, they become unhealthy. And if they're handled in an unproductive manner, it might also get escalated to the higher levels in a particular organization. At a personal level or interpersonal level between two individuals, or between you as a supervisor and a junior team member, it can also cause a great harm. Within two individuals who are having different point of views, they might also have a harm in their relationship, right? And since you have two opposing person in a particular team, then the team might also suffer, right? So conflict, before we move on to other slide, is a point where two people disagrees on certain things. Generally, it could be about ideas, it could be about desires, or it could be just the way they perceive each other, right? Now, what are the other interesting trivias or facts about conflict, right? It is important that conflicts will always exist. There cannot be a utopian world where we believe that there is no conflict. There has to be, and there is conflict, right? As a supervisor or as an effective supervisor, he or she should know how to navigate through this difficult time, right? When there's a disagreement of ideas, when there is a disagreement of thought, as an effective supervisor, he or she should have those skills to manage these scenarios. Now, look at it from the point of view of the supervisor or the person who is resolving or attempting to resolve a particular conflict. They would resolve based on perceptions, right? We generally would have some biases, or known or unknown bias towards a particular situation or a particular person or a particular environment. Uh, so our perceptions, that's how they're influenced. It could be because of culture, it could be values, it could be our belief system, and we use all whatever we have experienced in our past to try to help resolve a particular conflict, right? So it is also critically important that we stay away, or at least we try to stay away from these perceptions, right? And as we progress, we'll talk about a very fact driven kind of a response system. But generally, if you could just introspect that a resolution of a conflict or our response to a conflict will depend on how we perceive a particular scenario. Conflicts tend to fester if they're ignored. I think this is quite well understood. If we would leave or ignore this particular point of view or a differing point of view, it could balloon into something more catastrophic, right? Uh, Conflicts would generally involve a very strong emotion, right? Especially when if you're threatened. So imagine you are having a differing point of view with another colleague of yours, right? Generally, we both of you would try to vigorously put across their point of view, and it will be very high in terms of emotion. Now imagine that when you are having this heated or a very high emotion led discussion, visualize if you also feel threatened, right? And when I say threatened, it means that you could sense that it could lead to certain uh, workplace type type matter, where probably it will hamper your career path or the way you are taken in your particular organization. So again, the emotions will simply get accentuated if that person is feeling threatened. Okay. So where does conflicts come from? Okay. Generally, in my experience, it could come in either of these bullets. It could be differing goals, right? Let's say as a supervisor, you have a different perspective for the team or for the function, but the team is not aligned. It will be a regular kind of friction that you and I, or you and the team would encounter. Personality conflicts, right? Somebody who is very aggressive in terms of the attitude, or somebody who is more docile. If they are paired together, that is again a fertile ground for a workplace conflict. Scarce resources. I think in the fraternity that we are in, we would know the importance of high quality resources. If those resources are scarce, then obviously it's again a reason for a conflict within the team. What happens is that generally in those scenario, uh, you would uh, try to depend more on a particular team member, and that will again lead to a burnout. That team member might feel that he or she is bearing the burden for the entire team. So it is more like a lopsided or a disproportionate distribution of work. So scarce resources, be it terms of of people or be it any other resources, can trigger a conflict in the team. Working styles, right? I knew a manager when in my initial days of my profession, that somebody who would only start to review the work of juniors after 6 p.m. Right? Is that a style that you would like to leave your juniors with? Uh, that your working style could also be a reason for conflict, right? Values, right? The value system that one person have might be very different. Somebody who is more emotionally led somebody who would value or who would uh, give more importance to emotions rather than meeting a particular goal in a particular organization, that differing values can also trigger a conflict. Uh, there could also be scenarios where you have set expectations, right, for a particular team as a team leader or a supervisor, but they have not been communicated appropriately to the team. Okay. And since they have not been communicated, obviously they have not been met by the team. So again, probably a wrong or an inadequate communication could also be a reason for conflict. Okay. Another, especially if we have to deal with a high stress or a high expectation kind of an environment, the idea is that just get the job done, right? No matter what it takes, just get the job done. So that also could lead to a burnout, right? Work-life balance challenges, and that might, along with other factors of values and goals, might also trigger a conflict. Okay. Communication, right? One thing which I always harp on when I have the opportunity to talk on these sessions is communication is very, very important. Communication is not what you think. Communication is uh, communication is when the other person also understand in the same way. They also feel the same way on a particular topic or on a particular matter, the way you feel. So communication is not just decoding or speaking in a particular language. The communication means is that the other person who is hearing is also able to understand or comprehend in the same manner the way you comprehend a particular matter, right? So an inappropriate communication could also trigger conflicts at workplace. Uh, so what happens if there is a conflict, right? When people don't agree, what are the conflicts, right? So it might lead to a breakdown of uh, of the team. It might be leading to a breakdown of communication. People started blaming each other. People take things personally. Uh, they sometimes they feel disrespected. They feel they're unsafe. They feel that they're hurt and they are not respected in the team. So, an obvious human reaction, flight or fight. So, some people might just run away from a particular scenario or a particular conflicting scenario. They might try to isolate themselves to avoid escalation, or somebody might come out very, very vocally or strongly when they have to respond to a conflict. But whatever is the outcome, one thing is very, very clear. It creates a discord within the team. The entire balance within the team upsets. So imagine two very important team members are fighting. Overall, the entire team suffers, right? The other team members don't know how to how to get things done in that particular scenario, right? Or or let's say if you as a collectively as a team, you have agreed to a particular goal or a particular timeline that possibly may not have been met. So it is not just a problem between two person. It generally creates in a workplace environment a problem for the entire team. Yeah. So yeah, I think we briefly spoke of, can there be a positive side of conflict? I very strongly feel that there can be a positive side of conflict. Yeah. So what the conflict basically gives an opportunity to all the person involved, two differing point of views, and the person who is trying to resolve is try to step up, right? They will give them an opportunity to translate this particular um, uncomfortable scenario into a much more productive and a professional work environment. So conflict cannot always have a negative connotation. There is a positive side. It is an opportunity that is present in front of the people involved, and it completely depends on how each one of them choose to respond, right? And I just like the last line, what I wrote on the slide. How we think of conflict influences how we respond. So if we as supervisor, or if we as a team member, or somebody who is cornered, it presents an equal opportunity for all three of us to step up, right, and to deal this in a much more productive and positive way. It only will add skills, or that or the response mechanism, this strengthen our existing response mechanism more positively, right? Think of a scenario where you are having a difficult discussion with a particular client, right? If you had prior experience, probably were of handling a difficult client or a difficult scenario, you will obviously have an edge when you are in that negotiation table. So conflicts do have a positive side. Okay. Uh, when employees challenge each other in a healthy kind of environment, this also gives a very important message to the team. What it gives is that the ideas of everyone is valued. It is not that as a team or an organization we are tilted or biased towards a particular viewpoint. This gives a very fertile and open environment for people to put forward their point of views. Okay, so again, a healthy or a positive side of a conflict, because unless we have that ecosystem, we will not be able to generate ideas, right? Anything that is new, be it an idea, or be it thought, or be it a concept, or be it a product, or be it a service, that do take time. And as a leader, as a supervisor, we should be able to create that environment where people in the team are freely able to exchange ideas. They may have a different point of view, but it's very important to pass on that message to the team, that even though if you have a different point of view which may be unpopular, you still have a system in the firm or in the organization to deal with these differing point of views. Now, from a conflict perspective, there could be a healthy conflict. For example, the disagreements are communicated by the team leader in a supportive way, right? And they find out new ideas and there are new ways to solve a particular problem. Tensions that increases awareness or sheds light on a growing workplace problem, right? So conflict can also be a trigger for a very larger issue, right? I think we spoke of scarcity of resources. If you could sense a tension from a particular team where it is nagging, where it is not getting resolved, that so that conflict can also lead to a different or a kind of larger kind of issue uh, when you are having a discussion, right? But generally, the conflict do have a very damaging kind of a tone or a damaging kind of a outcome. It might lead to name calling. Uh, it might have a personal attack on employees. A very high performing employee might become silent. They might feel withdrawn, or they might feel even afraid to speak up. Okay, gossips and rumors then take over the entire environment, and in a longer run or a medium to long term perspective, it damages the entire morale of the team, right? It also leads to a lack of disrespect amongst team members, right? But what I felt that to leave a thought with you is that the conflicts do have a positive side, right? It is not always negative, and as I said, it is depending on those three persons how they choose to respond that could tilt the answer to whether it is a positive or a healthy conflict, or a negative or a damaging kind of a conflict. Okay. Why is it important to resolve conflict? I think we all could appreciate that. Uh, uh, Consequences, simply because the consequences of letting the conflict fester is far more dangerous than choosing to to respond uh, or resolve a particular conflict. Right? We spoke of morale, we spoke of withdrawn team, but overall, as a team, I think they suffer, and thus, as a team member or a team leader, it is important that to run the business effectively and to meet the objectives that they have set up, right? The resolution of conflict is quite important. Okay. What I have also seen that in case of an extreme scenarios, they might lead to violent or aggressive situations. Unless they are resolved on time, there might be some legal risk or a financial implication that an organization might be exposed to. Right, work dramatically can come to a halt altogether, and my entire productivity of the team or the market standing of a particular organization might get affected. So before it escalates, it is important as a team member to maintain harmony and to balance in the organization the objectives of conflict resolution should be explored quite quickly. Now, we spoke of conflicts and what are the reasons for conflicts. What are the different styles which, as a management, personnel, that we have seen in practice, and they're quite interesting. What I have tried to do is that I've tried to put a visual kind of icon, and so that it is easier for you to comprehend and reflect on uh, at a later date. Uh, why is it? What is a conflict management style? Could be a common question that you might be pondering on. And why do I need to know this? Because simply because we as human being has different response system. So if we have a differing response system, then obviously the way we manage conflicts or the style of managing conflicts are different. The form of behavior that a person practices in response to conflict with each other is the conflict management style, right? Uh, Again, there might be different ways the conflict will occur. There might be different persons involved. So then, obviously, there could, as a kind of a leader or a good or an effective leader, we should be able to embrace a different conflict management style for a different scenario. Yeah. So let's talk about handling conflicts. Let's see what type are you. And as we go to these slides subsequently, I would request all of you to think and then pick up which is your conflict management style. Okay. From a management side, there are 5 different styles of conflict management. Okay, and this is not something which I have kind of found out, but this is like uh, a very well thought of principle or a well thought of style, which it is taught in various management kind of courses, right? So people have a different ways of handling conflicts, as we spoke in the past. When people are living together, conflict is obviously bound to arise. So it is important to know that how to handle these stressful situations. But it is also important to know how people live and react to these particular situations, right? The image that you are seeing on the slide, the 5 types of conflict management style, was coined by a gentleman called Thomas Skillman, right? He found this conflict mode instrument, which is a model for handling conflict. As you can see on the left hand side, uh, there are two sides of conflict management: assertive and cooperative, right? And and there obviously is a high and low point. If you are, let's say, tilted more towards assertive, you as an individual are more assertive, and you are uh, the intensity of your assertiveness is very very high, then probably your style of handling conflict is competing, right? On the other side, if you are very high on cooperative, where you cooperation, where you believe that if you cooperate with other people, uh, you are able to find a response. If you are high towards that aspect, then probably your style of conflict management is accommodating. So, competing, collaborating, avoiding, accommodating is what Thomas Gilman wrote as the five styles of conflict management. We'll go through five of them, and as I said, as we go through, I hope you are picking up what is your conflict management style, right? So let's go to the first one, the shark or the competitor. Simply put, this particular management style is where might makes it right. So if you're a very very aggressive kind of a person, you like to throw your authority, you want to use a very strong voice tone or a very strong putting forward your point of view, then you are more of a shark or a competitor kind of a style of management of resolving conflict, right? As I said, might makes it right. So so it means that you would use all your energies or your influence to say that this is my way. So either you accept my way or you just just forget about it, right? So it is my way or the highway, right? These type of personality, they use a very forceful or a competing conflict resolution style, right? Obviously they put relationship at a very very low priority, right? They don't hesitate to use an aggressive kind of approach. They are very very aggressive in their approach. They always have this innate need to win. They always want to win a particular argument, and if somebody has to win, then somebody else must have to lose, right? So they are in that win or lose kind of a approach, right? uh, so this kind of a personality trait or this kind of a conflict resolution style may include arguing. They might involve the use of influence, pulling of ranks, or it might also in certain cases just instigate certain sanctions or penalties on the other person, right? What does it mean is that uh, you are standing up against a person who believes in a particular outcome, and it is their thought process where they believe that this is the right kind of a thought process. Okay, and they would use, as I said, influence, and sometimes in some way a very high level of influence to put forward their point of view. Now again, this particular approach is not right or wrong. They obviously have some merits. This is quite seen as a resolution style where the stakes are very very high, or there is an emergency kind of a situation. If you are in an emergency situation where the stakes are really very very high, you would need a quick and a decisive action, right? So in that case, right, where it is emergency, people might get into a competitor or a shark type resolution style, right? But what are the disadvantages? It is not a good conflict management style, right? Because it demands only 1% to be completely right and the other person to be completely wrong. So imagine in a particular discussion that you have, there is there is a gray area. So if somebody uses this particular style of responding, then possibly you would stick towards one particular outcome, right? So the gray area or a possibility of a third option is fundamentally ruled out. And we know as a professional, this may not always be right, right? In practice, it is rare that there is only one outcome. Rather, in practice, we have seen multiplicity of outcomes, right? But yeah, as I said, that these could be this could be a emergency kind of a scenario or a very high stake kind of a scenario where people might like to exercise a very high degree of authority or a very high degree of influence to put forward their point of view, and they make sure that they agree the other person also on this particular count, right? One of the most disadvantage of this particular style is that it breeds hostility, right? If you're working with a team, you are also not passing on good messages. You are saying that it is okay as a team, right? That we are always empathizing with one particular point of view, right? It is me who is having a higher designation will always call the shots. He or she will always be right. So it is bound to create hostility, right? So not a very preferred management style or a very preferred conflict resolution style, but we have seen this in practice when your stakes are really high or when there is a very emergency kind of a scenario and you have to assert your point of view immediately. Okay. The next one is the fox, which is compromiser, right? Uh, so this is a style where you split the difference. One side walks a particular point, the other side also walks a particular point, and uh, they try to find a mutually kind of acceptable midpoint, and then both the party benefit from this resolution, right? Uh, this could be a bit of a confusing uh, approach because it is it is uh, it is more of an outcome based approach. The person who is using this management style or a conflict resolution style, they value both goals and relationship. So they follow the Buddha way or the middle path. They say that it is neither the extremes, they don't believe in extremes, and they find a mid way. They're also willing to sacrifice some of their goals, right? And they are also able to persuade the other person from giving up a part of their goals. Uh, Now, this concept of being a lose-lose situation could be very confusing. Basically, it means that that no one is going to get exactly what they want, but some benefit will always come down, right? Now, it is like a compromise. As I said, both parties will walk a particular distance, right? Uh, Compromiser gives up less than accumulators, okay, but more than competitors. So as we said about the shark, they they uh, they they give more as trying to a shark kind of a mindset. Like in that shark or competitor kind of a resolution style, you will not budge an inch. But here you have a possible a difference. Yeah. Now, their solution involves splitting the difference or exchanging concession, right? Now, as I said, in which all scenarios they are appropriate? They are appropriate for scenarios when you need a temporary solution, right? Or where both sides mutually agree to a common goal. So you reset your goal. Let's say you had a point to go from point A to point B, but now you change to a point C, and both the parties agreed that yes, now I want to reach to point C only. So since the goalposts have changed, both of us have reached to a particular compromise, and that becomes the new goal. But in some scenarios, there are also a temporary kind of a arrangement, right? So again, disadvantage, right? They may create less than ideal outcome, and since it is a temporary kind of a solution, the original problem or the root cause may not get corrected. So there might be a nagging feeling in the mind of the people involved that that I am not been fully satisfied. So that's a disadvantage of this particular conflict management style, right? But the advantage is that relationships are maintained and conflicts are at least removed temporarily. Okay. So again, this is a very common kind of an experience that we might have at our workplace, where we might you know see a change of ground where people would come and settle their differences. Next could be accommodators, right? Kill your enemy with kindness, right? So this is just the extreme of a competitor or a shark kind of attitude. So as a competitor, we would kind of stand to a ground that this is what it is, my way or the highway. Accommodators or the teddy bear is just the opposite. In this case, the person on the other side would sacrifice their goals completely, right? They would say that I don't care what my goals are, or the other side of the argument is, I will go with what you are saying, right? So you are being kind to the person. So they ignore their own goals and they resolve conflict by giving into others, right? They are unassertive and cooperative, creating a personal lose situation, right? So they don't. So as a conflict solution provider or a conflict resolution, you then kill the opposite side with kindness. You are being kind to one of the opposing parties. Okay. People who use this kind of a conflict management style uh, often neglect their own concern and satisfy the concern of others. Right? As I said, accommodating is just opposite to competing. People who accommodate it may be selflessly generous or charitable, and they may also obey another person when they would prefer not to, or when they yield to other person's point of view. They may work against their own goals, and against their desired outcome, right? So, is there a possible appropriate time where these styles are used? I think they are appropriate to be used when maintaining friendships or a maintaining relationship is much more important to you as compared to an outcome, right? So if you are, let's say, working with a particular person for many years, and there is a difference in point of view, you value your friendship with that particular person, you would then give more weightage to your relationship with that particular person rather than whether you meet this particular goal or not, right? It could also be important when making suggestions are more important. You are not inclined towards the outcome, but the importance or the possibility of you giving a suggestion or being a part of the change is what would give you a kick rather than the outcome. This could also be a scenario where the time is very, very limited, right? Or where the problem is simple, they are not complicated, and and if you are tilted towards harmony and stability, it again is more valued in that particular scenario. So there are appropriate times when the teddy bear or accommodating type approach can also be used. Now, advantage, obviously they help maintaining the relationship and friendship, right? Uh, Disadvantage, you may be giving in too much, right? And maybe you are getting too little. This could also create an impression in the team that they could get away with something very, very easy. So again, from a team perspective, this particular messaging is important, but but it might be on a longer run create more challenges for the team. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So another style is avoiding, right? Or as I call the total. So the in the style you say that leave leave well enough alone. यार उसको ना छोड़ देते हैं. Let them figure it out on their way, on their own way. So you try to get into a shell, you try to avoid, and you let the other person figure out to do what they want to do. So when some person uses this avoidance, they're not helping the other party to reach their goals, right? They're also not assertively pursuing their own, right? Uh, Diplomatically, this we have seen in the other walks of life, right? Diplomatically, people might just step aside or postpone a particular decision unless it's a better time or unless the matter actually uh, escalates, or let's say they are withdrawn from a particular point in time. They perceive conflicts as hopeless, and therefore they believe that this is something that should be avoided, right? Differences would generally get overlooked and they would accept disagreement. So again, it's like a status quo, right? You don't work on it and you leave it for the time to heal the differences between two persons, right? They would hide and ignore conflict, then resolve it. It leads to uncooperative and unassertive behavior, right? Uh, Now, from the perspective of these kind of personality traits, they believe that that we need to give more space between two individuals, right? So again, it is generally speaking, it is not a very good way of handling conflicts, especially when you are in a supervisory role. Uh, so because the conflicts get unresolved, and the overuse of this particular uh, style might influence other person to walk in the same way. But on the flip side, there are also advantages, and the advantage is that you continue to maintain good relationship with both the parties, right, without hurting the emotions of both of them, right? Is it appropriate to use? Sometimes when the stakes are not very high or they are trivial, or if there is a confrontation, it will again hurt a working relationship where you had a difficult time in resolving. There you might follow this total uh, kind of a attitude. right? Now, the last management or the last conflict management style is a collaborator, right? Collaborator is like two heads are better than one. Now, what happens in a collaborator style approach is that people who collaborate work together to make plan to improve a scenario or to achieve goals of both the parties. They attempt to work with others to find a solution and fully satisfy the concerns of both parties. So they try to resolve the conflict in the amicable way. They don't change the goalpost, but they give such a solution that both the parties, it's a win-win outcome. None of the parties feel a loser, right? Whatever party A wanted, whatever party B wanted, this conflict resolution style will make sure that both the parties ultimately win, right? Without changing the original landscape. Uh, this can be effective for complex scenarios where a novel solution is needed, right? This can also mean reframing a challenge, right? Or create more room for everybody's ideas. So again, a very uh, invigorating and a very innovative kind of a environment where you put your heads together and try to find out a new solution, right? In this particular style, not only the person uh, uh, listens to the views of the others, but they also assert their own view. They will lay down the ground rules to say that this is what I think. How do you feel about it, right? Uh, they also lead to identification of the root cause or the concerns behind a particular conflict. This also creates a room for multiple ideas. And as you could also imagine, this would require involvement of significant efforts from both parties. Right. So it is very time consuming, and it requires a significant degree of effort. Right. What are the advantages? Advantages is that the both sides get what they want. Right. None of them feel negatively, and the negative emotions are eliminated. Disadvantages, as we spoke, it requires a great deal of time and effort. Now, this type of a conflict resolution style is appropriate when maintaining a relationship is important, but time and use of resources is not a concern, right? It might have involvement of your peers, where it is important to gain commitment through consensus building and try to merge differing perspectives, right? So again, this could be another style which we would commonly use when we are dealing with a particular scenario, right? So which one is the best? We saw this five styles. We saw the shark. We saw the owl. We saw the fox. We discussed about the turtle kind of a style, and we also talked about the teddy bear. Which is your style of handling conflicts, or is there only one style of handling conflicts, right? Can there be no other style, right? In practice and in my experience, I don't think there is no one best way. It depends on scenario to scenario. It depends on the person involved. So somebody who is saying that this is the only, you have to choose or stick to one particular way, I think that would be an incorrect statement to make, because every scenario will have a different expectation or a different kind of a perspective, different emotions involved, and hence use of any of the five conflict resolution measures that we spoke of could be used by the same person. So there is no universal right answers. Okay. All five modes are useful, and they each represent a different set of social skills. The effectiveness of the conflict handling mode depends upon the requirements of a specific conflict situation and the skill which the mode is used. So it also depends on how skillful are you with a particular mode. Somebody who has a collaborative kind of a value system, who always like to discuss things, or who always like to be innovative, right? They might be tilted towards a particular way. But whereas someone who would give up their own perspective, and they're happily willing to accept the point of view of the others just for the sake of temporarily handling the conflict, might be handling it in a different way. So there is no right or wrong answer. There is no universal answer, as we said. So it all depends on how that individual is going to perceive uh, a particular scenario. Now, is it that one person is capable of handling uh, conflict in one particular way only? Are we attuned to resolve conflict only in particular way? I don't think so. I think each of us is capable of using all five conflict handling modes, right? Some of us may be rigid towards a particular style, someone might be flexible, but in my experience, I would like to share this with a great amount of strong suggestion that each of us is capable of handling all these five modes, right? It might be that you are comfortable with one particular mode, but that doesn't mean you are incapable of applying the remaining four. As a human being, we all are capable of applying all these five modes to handle a particular conflict. Okay, but as a nature, we might be using a particular conflict management style, right? But that doesn't mean that we are incapable of using the other four. So uh, so it is important that we reflect and introspect about all these five styles of conflict resolution, and they use it based on scenario, right? We should not be rigid that the competitor or a shark kind of attitude will always yield a perfect result. I don't think we can use this when you are discussing or when you're having a conflict with a very senior kind of a person in the team, right? Or a senior stakeholder or a very senior member of the client, right? So I don't think that will work, but it might, as I said, work in a very emergency kind of a scenario. So what I want to assure you, that we as human being are well attuned to apply any of these five, you know, kind of a style to resolve conflicts. Okay. Now, when you are dealing with a particular conflict, right, is there a particular glide path? Is there a particular way you should be approaching a particular conflict? And I think it is important that we follow a particular path. Though this is not there in the textbook or anything, but in my experience, it would generally have six steps when you are resolving particular conflict. Step one, and I think most of us get this step wrong, right? What is the disagreement, right? Because if you're unclear of the problem, what we can be very sure of that the solution will not be correct either. So what is the disagreement? As a leader, as a supervisor, my request to all of you would be to spend significant time in identifying what is the disagreement. So what might appear as a possible compensation issue, right, might be only be a facade. It might be because the workplace environment is not challenging, right? The disagreement is that, I am putting 18 hours a day, whereas my compensation is similar to my peer. Why am I not respected, or why my time is not valued properly? So it might come up as a compensation discussion, but the real reason is that the distribution of work within the team is lopsided, right? So what is the disagreement, or what is the reason for the disagreement, is where the senior members or senior professionals should be spending more time. They should clarify, getting into the heart of the matter. Uh, the best way would be to get both on the side agree what is a disagreement, right? Let's say if you have two factions fighting with each other in the team, it is very important that we sit across the table, discuss with them, identify the root cause, and both of them agree to say that this is the point where we are both disagree, right? So when we are doing that, a few tips I thought I'll just leave with you. We should discuss the needs uh, are not getting met. Which are those needs that are not getting met, right? We should foster the essence of team spirit and harmony, and ensure that there is a mutual respect and a mutual understanding on this particular reason for conflict. As a team leader, you should be obtaining the information much more. You should be obtaining more and more information as possible to understand the point of view of both sides. You should not be biased. You should be digging in more uh, from that side. People who are chartered accountants and who belong to the auditors fraternity, right? They would appreciate this better. They should be knowing that when you are auditing a particular matter, the level of detailing or the level of uh, time that we need to involve ourselves to get to the root cause of a particular issue is humongous, right? So if my request again to all of you would be to find out a very clear cut reason for disagreement, and clarify, most importantly, what is the disagreement, right? It might be that when you get a particular set of information from these two parties, you are not satisfied. You should continue to ask questions. Don't limit your response based on the limited response that you get. You should continue to ask questions, right? This will only help you to understand both the perspective better, and understand both of them. Second is to establish a common goal for both parties, right? You as a team leader or as a supervisor should discuss with both the parties what is the common goal. Is it that we want to reach a particular milestone that is important, or it is that we want to have a harmony within the team? uh, Whether these matters are so important or so trivial, which was triggering a particular response. What is the goal of these two parties? You should ultimately be making sure that this is the outcome which both of them want, right? Again, when you're finding a common ground, what you should be focusing on is to have a both party to be able to have a shared kind of outcome. It is not that it is tilted towards a particular outcome. um, it could be as simple as saying that both parties would like to close this particular conflict. So again, establish a common goal, right? Third could be to discuss how do you meet the common goal, right? uh, because till now we just spoke of the objectives. Now it is a way to execute, right? So if you are working, right, towards a particular objective, what are those granular steps which each party will take to reach to the desired outcome? As a team leader or as a supervisor, it is important that you brainstorm each and every approach to meet the goal, right? Discuss until all the options are exhausted. Generally, what we do is that we go by our perception. We go with our previous experience on a particular matter or a particular conflict, and we limit our options to those previous experiences, right? So, as I said, experiences are previous. There could be newer ways of resolving conflicts. There could be better way of resolving conflicts. It is your responsibility as a team leader to ensure that we have exhausted all the options before we try to say that uh, what are the ways of meeting the common goals. Okay. uh, Determine the barriers, right? It is very important as a team leader to cut out what is completely non-negotiable, right? What cannot change, right? So I'm sure in a resolution of conflict, what remains unchanged is those ethical boundaries, the ethical and moral boundaries, or the boundaries of laws and regulation, they remain intact. So whichever style you use or whichever step you use to resolve a particular conflict, ultimately it should remain ethical and it should be within the four corners of the laws and regulation. When we're talking about laws and regulation, it is also important to consider the policies and practices of the particular organization. So if the particular firm or the particular organization has some set rules, make sure that we are within those boundaries as well. As a tip, what I would suggest that a question which you might want to ask, that if we could have the outcome that we both wanted, what would it look like? So it will, so the parties involved will only tell you, that I would need, let's say, a particular uh, promotion. I want to work in a particular team, right? Or I want to get shifted to another location. So if your, let's say, the policy of a particular organization is that you being a new member in the team, any kind of a lateral kind of a posting can happen only if you have, let's say, spent 1 year with the firm. You obviously cannot override that. So it is very important that you create those barriers and stick to those barriers. Um, for the items that cannot be changed, is there a particular way of getting around, right? Whether the system have some exceptional approval, uh, right, that can be used to safeguard uh, against these conflicts. Next, you would need to agree the best way to resolve a particular conflict. Both party will come to a conclusion on the best way. It, you would need as a team leader to determine a solution that both sides can live with. It should not be impracticable. It should be that both parties are able to execute a particular resolutions in a seemingly easy manner. Uh, what at this stage, what you should also gauge is that whether resolving this particular conflict is also creating another conflict, right? If yes, then probably we need to go to step one and rethink whether we have identified all the uh, conflicts correctly. Okay. After we have done all that, lastly, what we should do is that you acknowledge the agreed solution, right? We somehow use this positive phrases that I agree to, I acknowledge that I have the responsibility of resolving this particular conflict, and this is what I would like to do, right? In this stage, both parties will take their responsibility. They are parties to not only the problem, but they are also party to the solution, and they acknowledge that this will be resolved by both of them. Okay. Now, how would you apply this in a workplace kind of a scenario, right? Uh, Mostly these principles of five steps or 5 style of conflict resolution can easily be applied in a workspace. The steps that we spoke of can also be easily applied in a working place. But let's see if there, from a workspace standpoint, if there are certain considerations or certain additional factors that we should be discussing, right? Now, one thing which I would like all of you to know, that when you are in a conflict scenario, you should be taking actions early. Be proactive, right? And start with informal discussions, right? So there could be scenarios where, because of conflict, people are having long absences. If that is so, nudge them to return to work. If when they return to work, it is also a good opportunity to interview and discuss them, you know, and be prepared about the questions that you might be asking. It could be that what are those reasons why an employee is absent for some period of time, and is there something that is bothering? Okay, depending on the size of the organization, you might also want to discuss this parallelly and informally with the HR team, and you also can seek their advice on these particular topic, right? Um, yeah. So my tip or my view to all of you would be that be proactive and initiate discussions. Take help of HR if needed. Yeah. Next, in a workspace, you should be ready to facilitate, right? Make sure you make sure you engage in a challenging conversation as soon as you begin to observe early signs of conflict at work, right? It might be a heated argument. You could gauge that the frictions are flying between two-person, or if there is an inappropriate remark, personal remark. So, as a team leader and a supervisor in a workplace, you should be acting as a facilitator. So, if these are those situations where you are seeing, you should, as a team leader, intervene quickly, right? Deal these issues firmly, but in a sensitive and a fair, constructive way. Encourage people to talk, because the moment you confront a particular person, human reaction will be that you take a back seat. So without being unprofessional, and whether acting as a bully, right, you should be encouraging people to talk. Okay, listen to their concerns. Okay, help individuals identify the moot reason for disagreement. Generally, what happens in a conflict scenario, emotions take over. Then somehow the logic and your brain doesn't function the way it should be. So probably as a team leader, you should be able to find out what is the root cause of this particular disagreement and guide the attention of the team members towards that disagreement. As a team leader, you should remain objective, right? It should not be that you're taking sides or making hasty judgments, right? You should be listening to everyone's views and concerns, right? Uh, and it is important that you, as a team leader, also be very, very clear that this is the particular disagreement that we're trying to resolve. You should also try to establish what individual need to happen when to resolve the matter or to move forward. Are there any compromise that, as a facilitator in the workplace conflict, would need to propose, right? If there is a serious issue, let's say a discrimination or a breach of an employment contract, you might be needing to start a more formal action and seek help from the HR team. Okay. What I would Also advice is that you speak with each of the individual team members uh, separately, right? You should choose an appropriate place and appropriate time. It could be a coffee shop outside your workplace, or it could be a meeting room wherever the other person is comfortable, to have a much more open and focused kind of a discussion. Make sure that there are lesser distractions. Phone or a public place might dilute the importance of these discussions. And despite your best efforts, since you have chosen a wrong place, probably the outcome that you desire would be inappropriate. Yeah. You should avoid making assumptions. Many people find it difficult to open up about problems at work, okay, let alone dealing with conflicts. You should keep an open mind and give them space to talk about it. An important aspect for the conflict resolver, they should be acting with integrity and they should be maintaining confidentiality. So if there is some personal information which you are gaining from that particular employee, it could be a WhatsApp chat, it could be an event that person would have shared in confidence. Please respect that confidentiality, right? You reassure that employee that all this private information or personal information will stay confidential with you, right? And either they will never be passed on, or they could be passed on only with the consent of the other person. Never ever break this bond of trust and integrity, especially when you're dealing with personal uh, or a private kind of information, right? Now, in the workplace, try to bring both sides uh, together and foster a place to communicate. As a provider, as a facilitator of conflicts, you should be encouraging people to acknowledge their colleagues' views, right? You should also nudge the other person to see the brighter side, or from the perspective the other person is coming to. Generally, when we are dealing with a conflict, what I have seen is that we are tilted or we are biased towards a particular point of view. So unless as an effective team leader, you bring the other point of view to that person, it would be inappropriate to say that the resolution would be right. So as a facilitator, you should be making sure that the other person hears or understand the views of the differing point of view. As a facilitator, as a team leader, you should take a problem solving approach, a constructive approach, right? You should encourage the individual to discuss any change that can be made from either side to find a solution. You should remain impartial and objective, right? uh, it is very common that we also believe towards a particular outcome, or uh, we agree to a particular mindset. We should remain objective. We should not be taking sides, and because it is not your problem, it's the problem between two parties. You should be working with both of them to make sure that both of them have to agree to a particular solution. It is not you. You're only facilitating a discussion, but ultimately it's a problem or a conflict between two parties, and you are trying to help and resolve that. So to do that, it is important that as a resolver, you don't take sides of any individuals. Uh, I'm not sure to what extent you guys have experienced this, but in one of my experience or a particular scenario, one of the team member was very aggressive. So to maintain harmony in the team, what we felt is that we remove that particular person from our team temporarily, and we pass it on to some other teams, right? Uh, though I would expect it to be a very, very rare scenario, but uh, considering the stress that we are going through, this could become increasingly common, right? But before you do that, and before you directly remove that one person from the team and shift him to or ship him to another team, what I would like to suggest is that uh, these steps should be done with high degree of caution, right? One is that we should be having the HR department in confidence, and most importantly, we should be having that team member in confidence that we are not passing on our problem to somebody else, right? We are trying to be fair. This is just a temporary phase. We are evaluating this, but considering your high emotions and aggressive behavior, as a team, we are unable to reach a correct outcome. So, as a temporary measure, we why don't you work with a different kind of a set of people? Let those set of people also see and experience. Is it that the problem is with you as an individual, or the new team where you are being sent to, they're also having a similar concern? If that is a problem, that is also like a litmus test that you do when you change roles, right? So in those scenarios, these could also be a good way to maintain harmony in the team, and also give a different dimension when you are resolving a particular conflict, right? So it could be that you could consider transferring the disruptive team member to another team or area uh, where it is reasonable. Uh, this could also be because there are some personality clashes that are becoming hard to resolve, right? So why not we test him out in a particular new environment, and let's see whether there is a change of thought. Yeah. Now, another tip which I would like to give to all of you is to gather ideas on how to address conflict from within the team, right? Uh, so you should be having a regular one-to-one meetings with your team members. I leave the periodicity to your judgment. It could be depending on the mix of the team, your availability, the organization that you are in. But the moot point is that there should be a very constant kind of a touch or a constant discussion with other team members, right? Uh, it is important that we get those perspective to a clear picture, right? This would also help preventing further instances of dispute by having regular consultations with your team. This kind of a approach or a proactive approach ensures that you consider their views before introducing any change. It kinds of builds the morale of the team altogether. So if in my experience, if you're able to build that consensus building culture in the team, then as a team we would be standing much more stronger. So my sincere urge to all of you, or sincere recommendation to all of you, would be that when you are making a change in the team, or we're trying to resolve a conflict, or when you are trying to have a very innovative or a novel kind of idea, make sure that you have the backing of the team, right? Because as a team leader, it is important that the team stands with you. Follow up on conflicts. Many people don't do that, right? So once we give a solution, we believe that it is done and dusted. We don't need to follow. But it is very important that we follow on conflicts. Are there any new conflicts? Are there people comfortable? Probably their judgment would have changed. Their perception about the problem would have changed. As a result, the problem itself would have been different now, right? So it is important that you talk to individuals on one-to-one meetings or in group discussions to find out whether the conflicts have actually been resolved or there have been renewed tensions or feeling of unhappiness. Yeah. Uh, it also these regular discussions also act as a temperature check, right? And make sure that the older disagreements do not resurface, right? So one-to-one contact with the team and checking with them is quite important. Okay. Now, what is it that we as senior leaders in the team always possess these skills, or is there some skills that we need to develop? So I felt that instead of just limiting our discussions to conflict resolution and the type of collaboration that you would need to do, it is important that as professionals we also focus on certain skills. It might be that some of these skills that you will be seeing on the next slides are are already there with you. But if they are not, I think it is high time we should be thinking about them, and we should be having some upskilling sessions to have or generate these kind of skills. Okay. uh, and why are these relevant? They would need to skills you need to apply to resolve conflicts, uh, because you would that will also help you to stay balanced, stay focused, and control yourself. uh, my sincere request to all of you is that when you are resolving a conflict, you are there as a solution provider. You don't become part of the problem, right? You, as a senior leader, would need to control your emotions and perspectives, right? So you should be a part of solution, and it should not be a part of the problem, right? Uh, so if you don't know how to stay focused or how to stay centered and control yourself, you will yourself become overwhelmed in a conflict situation and may not be able to respond effectively, right? So it is very important that that we develop these conflict resolution style or skills as early as possible. But whatever we do, we should be professional. I think I have hopped on the idea of being professional or dealing conflicts in a professional way on the previous slide. But I felt it is important to reiterate again that whenever you are resolving conflict, do not be unprofessional. You should always remain professional in your attitude. Okay. So one skill or one awareness that we should have is the emotional awareness, right? And if you are, let's say, emotionally overwhelmed, probably that is not the best time to resolve the conflicts. So you should be bringing down your own stress level. Okay, you should be knowing how to control your emotions or a particular behavior. Mind you that if you are working as a resolver, right, you might also experience some amount of the flack. Okay, somebody might also not so somebody might also talk to you in a inappropriate way, right? So you should know how to control your emotions and control your professional behavior, right? If you are at a lower stress level, if you are able to control your emotions and behavior, you should also be able to communicate your perspective very, very clearly, right? You should not be threatening or fighting others, but it is important that we communicate, right? Uh, pay heed to non-verbal communication, changes in body shifts, changes in body language, right? Whether somebody is appearing tensed, that you can only gauge if you are yourself settled mentally, right? And if you are mentally satisfied, again you would be giving respect and becoming aware of the actual reasons for differences. So again, being emotionally aware and being emotionally conscious is very, very important in this particular conflict zones. Critical thinking skills. I think this is an absolute must, right? Uh, we should be observing a particular scenario. We should be not be taking things the way at face value. Observe those minor changes, right? Critical thinking skills also require use of logic and reasoning mindset to look at a scenario. It does not involve the use of bias, right? It also requires to be open-minded. So when you are going into a particular conflict situation, go with an open mind. Don't be judgmental or uh, uh, or try to confront a particular scenario with biases, right? Don't prejudge a particular scenario. So all these are part of critical thinking skills. Uh, uh, this One of the very important measure for a critical thinking skill is to be disagreeable, right? You should be able to disagree without being disagreeable, right? You should respectfully disagree with someone. You should be assured that you would be taking or asking tough questions. You would be raising a different point of view. So again, probably a different topic for another day, but critical thinking as a skill is very important to be developed if you are acting as a supervisor or someone who is going to resolve a particular conflict. Problem solving skills. I don't think we can uh, avoid this. Uh, the way you particularly solve a problem, right, is very important. This particular skill needs to be fine tuned. This particular skill should be sharpened as fast as possible. But if you have this problem solving skill mindset, then you would be doing great in a conflict situation, right? Now when you have this particular skills, you would generally try to think outside the box. You would know which resources to use. We spoke of HR. There might be other resources or other service lines where you might be needing to take help. Be an advocate. It is possible that you would try to influence a particular outcome or a goal. Do not settle for a lesser kind of a goal. Problem solving skills require you to solve a problem, but they don't compel you to add mediocrity. They would need you to up your game, and they would need to find out the best possible solution in the particular problem, right? So again, a very important skill that we cannot overemphasize. Okay, communication skills. I think when we talk of communication skill, we always think that we are able to decode or we are able to speak a particular language. I don't think that's what is the appropriate uh, definition of communication. Communication would simply put mean, if you're feeling a particular way or you're thinking in a particular way, when you're talking to a particular person, you are able to translate or able to transfer those point of views in the same way or the same fashion to that person. So there is no transmission loss. Okay. So I would say that from a communication skills perspective, what we should be very, very clear is that we are having a very clear communication. Okay. This might involve very effective writing skills. When you write emails or you give texts to your employees, you should say what you mean and be professional, right? Uh, you should not be writing your own emotions, right? As I said, be a part of the solution, don't be a part of the problem, right? You should be using clarity on what is discussed, right? More than writing skills, what is important that you exude non-verbal communication, right? Be mindful of that, be it the facial expression, the crossed arms, the eye contact. Each and every part of non-verbal communication is is ultimately a communication that you are making, right? So enhance those communication skills if you have to deal with a particular conflict scenario. Okay, so I think we have 3 or 4 more slides to go, and we can wrap this up. But to conclude, uh, whatever we have heard in the last 1 hour or so, conflict is inevitable in the workplace. There is healthy and damaging conflict. We also talked about the positive side of conflict. Conflicts also give a very good opportunity for people to reset or course correct their scenario. So it is not always a negative kind of a connotation, but positive. But it can also have a very great amount of positivity if it is dealt with in a particular way. Dealing with conflicts is about attitude. It is not about the person, but the attitude in which you deal, right? It is important to address conflict because unresolved conflicts lead to low morale, productivity, and in extreme cases, workplace violence, right? Different conflict management styles are used. We spoke of 5 different types of conflict management styles. We are entitled and are capable of using all or any of the 5 conflict management style. It depends on the person and the scenario which one they would opt to use, right? As a human being, we are capable of using all these 5 conflict management styles. Knowing yourself and fully understanding the scenario will help you to understand the conflict management style needed, right? It is a very tailored and a situation specific trait or a situation specific style that you will need to use. There can't be a universal kind of an answer. Couple of do's and don'ts when you are resolving conflicts. Understand that conflicts are inevitable. Resolve conflicts to address conflict very quickly, right? Be open to solutions, be not be rigid or tilted towards a particular outcome. Acknowledge how employees are feeling, right? You are here, you are a team leader, so it is important that you make sure that the team members are feeling great, and they're feeling comfortable when they are uh, sharing. Be an active listener, right? Many a times, because of lack of time or because of some bias, we might be dismissive of their point of view. So please actually listen, right? When you are listening, make sure that you're focusing your attention completely towards those person. Avoid those distractions. Keep your phone on mute. uh, uh, mm, Discuss in a much more comfortable and a closed space so as to avoid distractions. Don'ts, what we should not do when resolving conflicts. uh, do not interrupt. Okay, if somebody is speaking, you should not interrupt. You should not also attack the other person. As I said, try to be a part of the solution. Let's not create new problems, right? Don't allow emotions to overtake the compensation. Sometimes it might involve a very high degree of emotion. Somebody might feel very sad, might feel threatened. You should always, as a resolution provider or a solution provider, try to focus the energies or the attention towards the solution or towards the problem. Do not ever let emotions run high when you are having a conflict kind of a discussion, right? Do not involve your personal values or belief. It is a discussion between 2 teams. You are only trying to facilitate a discussion, right? Do not involve your personal belief or impose your personal beliefs on these 2 individuals, right? And lastly, and most importantly, do not disregard the feeling of employees. They are here in this table. with you for a particular reason. They expect highly of you. You being the supervisor or the team leader. Please be respectful and do not be dismissive of how they feel. Right. So with this, I think that's all I had to uh, cover, and I will hand this back to Meenakshi. If there's any question, Meenakshi, happy to take.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, Meenakshi.
Yeah. So it was a great session. So I can't see any questions in the chat box. So would like to conclude today's session with a vote of thanks to you. So it was a great session to have you here for this insightful thing. Every day we face this thing that some or other team members practically are facing this issue that they are not able to resolve the clashes between, and today's this webinar will really going to help them. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful webcast from clash to collaboration, skillfully navigating the workplace, organized by the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI. On behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, I would like to thank or extend the heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Nilanjan Paul, for his enlightening session, and sincere thanks to who organized this webcast. Also, all the members who has joined this webcast and made this a memorable one. Finally, would like to thank all of you who is present here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, and thank you so much, ICI, for having me here. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Anything? Yeah, thank you so